This video was supposed to go up 6 months ago. I was supposed to upload it in November of last year, and we're now almost in May. And the reason why I haven't uploaded it yet is kind of what this whole channel is about, or going to be about. And I'm kind of going to explain to you why I haven't taken action yet. And from that, I think you'll be able to understand in a broader sense what I'm going to be talking about with this channel. My name is Yannick. I am turning 34 years old exactly 2 weeks from today. That is the day I'm recording this. I might already be 34 by the time you watch it. I used to be quite a happy-go-lucky, free-spirited guy. I didn't care much about things like building a career, gaining status, making a lot of money. I cared about things like, new experiences. I like literature. I like creativity. I like to write and draw. I cared about, travel, meeting new people, or interesting people at least, and, seeing a lot of the world. I lived in 2 different cities. I did a lot of different odd jobs. I traveled around Europe, Asia, Mexico. And work was just something I did to finance my lifestyle. It wasn't anything that I really put too much thought or effort into. During COVID, I took an office job. At the time it seemed like a sensible move. I'd become unemployed. To be quite honest, I was underqualified for the job. I was making more money than I ever had before. So yeah, it just seemed like a good move at the time. And in the beginning, it was even honestly quite a cushy job, because I don't think the expectations were that high for me. The workload wasn't that high, like that office in that city had only just opened, and I was like the new guy, and I was just like learning everything. And a lot of times I would be finished quite early, sometimes even around noon, and then I could just spend the afternoon doing whatever, because back then, everybody was working from home. All of that changed, I don't know, somewhere within, I think it already changed by the second year, suddenly as time progresses, I gained more experience, I became more important, I became more, responsible for more different things, tasks, processes, whatever. And now we flash forward 5 years, and I feel just chronically exhausted. It feels like I took my eyes off the ball for a second, and suddenly, 5 years have passed, and I don't even know who I am or where I am in life anymore. Instead of working to live like I used to do, I've been living to work. As cliched as it sounds. I can't even pinpoint exactly where that shift took place. All I know is that it happened gradually and like kind of unconsciously. And I know that, if the 23-year-old version of me would be looking at who I am today, like they wouldn't like what they saw. Now, everybody that works a corporate job knows like all the frustrations that come with it, like the mediating between different departments, none of whom want to take responsibility over a certain task. The boomers who've been with the company since the 90s and that are too expensive to fire and that are just like, incompetent. The zoomers that are like, just incapable of self-starting, where you need to dictate every single email to them like you're Don Draper dictating to a stenographer, except you're making like a fraction of the salary. The millennials with like the keep calm posters, etc., etc. The office politics, the surveillance over how efficiently you spend your time and how productive you are. You know, the personal development plan, all the manufactured panic about, you know, things that are just far from matters of life and death, but that you're still expected to kind of, you know, treat as such. Like, while I also find those things frustrating, they're not the reason why I'm fed up with it. I feel like all those things are just things that come with life in general, right? You know, you're going to be confronted with the incompetence of others, and sometimes you're going to be humbled by your own incompetence. You're going to be frustrated. That's just a fact of life, right? And I think that you have to be able to regulate your own emotions and your own reaction to things like that. And I think that I am generally quite able to do that as long as I have my sense of humor. You know, which brings me with the aspect of it that I can't deal with. And what I really cannot deal with is like that spiritual exhaustion that comes with spending a minimum of 40 hours a week doing things that I frankly don't really give a damn about. Right? If you spend an equivalent amount of time every week working on something that you're passionate about, right? That might also be tiring. It might be physically or even mentally tiring in some way, but it's also energizing, right? Like you get something back, maybe a sense of fulfillment or a sense of achievement. All of that is lacking from my life, and it has been for a while. You know, spending so much time and energy into like Excel and PowerPoints and other tools for like, you know, it is ultimately like a small part of this massive machine that a global corporation is. You know, that, you know, my individual performance has practically no influence over whether the company succeeds or not, you know. Like all of that is not, and even if it does succeed, I won't be the one benefiting from it, right? So that's not energizing, that's draining. And it's draining not only of like your energy, but also just like your life force. This exhaustion, it has become unsustainable. It's been affecting my mental and physical health. I don't know if it's, you know, visible on camera or not, but I've been having like this twitching on the left side of my face for a while now. I've been sleeping terribly on and off. I've gained a lot of weight. I've gained like 15 kilos in the last years. I've also lost another 5. You know, most importantly, I think it has kind of altered my personality. I've become more agitable. I've lost my sense of humor a lot, you know, like as I mentioned before. I think humor is something that I've in the past always used to kind of put things into perspective. And, you know, and especially in the last year or so, I think like that is something that has kind of been missing. And I mean, that's a very bad sign. I think that's a very, very bad sign. I've known for a number of years that things need to change, but I've been failing to take action, mainly because of this exhaustion. But there's also another thing that I've kind of come to realize that plays into it. You know, I know that I'm not alone in feeling the way I do, right? Like there are other content creators I've seen that talk about this thing. I think it's an issue that a lot of people feel. And I've seen a lot of content on how to escape this lifestyle, you know, FIRE, digital nomad, starting all different kinds of businesses, you know, where you make whatever, you know, you've seen it, make 10K a month doing whatever, video editing or something, you know, become an influencer, make 50K a month, etc. We've all seen it, you know. Buy my course. You know, while I do know there are certain content creators out there that are good, and some have helped me, you know, with things like personal finance and physical health and, you know, self-development. There's also a lot of noise out there, you know. And, you know, all that noise, it's kind of leading, I think, to sort of option paralysis. And that's just another thing adding to my mental exhaustion. And it's another thing that's keeping me from taking action, because you're just inundated all the time with all these options of like, oh, how to escape, that you don't even know where to start or, you know, what to do anymore. You know, and everything, it's, you know, everything needs to be optimized to become like a more efficient or productive earner, you know, like meditating or reading books, like, you know, it's all like, oh, you need to read these books to become rich, and you need to read a set amount of pages every day or every week. And then like reading books, which is something that's supposed to be enjoyable, which I used to find enjoyable, it becomes just another chore, you know. Or meditating, same thing, you know. It's all placed within this context of, you know, contributing to your earning potential, and then it just kind of like, I just don't give a shit about that. Like I want to do those things to improve my life, to improve my mindset, to improve my creativity and stuff like that, and I've kind of lost track of that. You know, and all of it also, you know, they're all, a lot of influencers, they're all recommending the same books, you know, Atomic Habits, 48 Laws of Power, this kind of stuff. I mean, I haven't read either of them, but you know what I mean. There's all these books that you keep seeing again and again. And they're also similar. It's all, you know, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. To just, you know, have, you know, become a sort of identikit influencer type or whatever. I think what I want more than anything else is a sense of meaning and self-actualization. And, you know, to leave it on a positive note, I don't want to make it seem all doom and gloom. It's also not that I've completely wasted the past years. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, my life sucks or anything. I mean, there's a lot of things that I have going for me in my personal life. Also in the last years, you know, because, you know, after, you know, COVID restrictions ended, and, you know, I have been making a bit more money than I used to. I've been able to travel a bit more. You know, I went to Thailand, Philippines, Mexico. And I think those experiences ultimately kind of led me to this, you know, because it's like, oh, you're in Thailand, suddenly you know what it's like to be rich, right? Or you know what it's like to have that kind of radical freedom of not having to worry about all the kind of constraints that being a wage slave in the West puts on you. And, you know, kind of gaining that perspective, knowing that there are alternatives, experiencing it for a bit, that kind of put me on that incremental path towards finally taking action. I have people in my life also that like I'm grateful for, and I think I owe it to them as well to put more effort into my life and into being the best version of myself, so that I can show up for them. You know, I owe it to them almost as much as I owe it to myself to make a change. And another big thing that I've achieved in the last years is that I quit smoking, for example. I quit smoking 2 years ago, and I haven't gone back, you know, except for the occasional cig, you know, that you buy. You can buy single cigarettes in certain countries like Mexico, Philippines. But, you know, generally I haven't returned to smoking as a habit. So, you know, that's massive, that's a big thing. And I've also already I've lost about 5 kilos. I still have at least 10 more to go, I think, but, you know, that's another chestnut that I'll be covering in different videos. You know, that's where this channel comes in, you know. It's like I've been putting this off for months. I've been making excuses, telling myself, you know, I'm not ready. I need better equipment. I need to wait until I'm some fully formed expert or whatever. You know, and that's where this channel comes in, you know. I've been making excuses for months to put this off. Been telling myself, you know, I'm not ready yet. I need better equipment. I'll wait until work gets more quiet and I'll have a bit more energy. But, you know, the perfect circumstances are just never going to arise, you know. I have to start taking action under imperfect circumstances to become consistent and to kind of like raise that base level incrementally. And, you know, that's what I'm going to do now. My intention is to document my journey on this channel. I think usually a lot of people, they do something like whatever, they get jacked, and then they start making videos after they're jacked, where they're kind of already that kind of expert, and then, you know, they come from this place of authority. And I think I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to just document the process from the beginning, right? Try to improve just my life in general and, you know, show you guys and hopefully inspire some of you to also start their own process. And my intention for the channel is to kind of document my journey. Instead of like coming from a position of being an expert, I'm just gonna document it from the start and, you know, try to improve my physical and mental health, my financial situation, and just try to find more meaning and enjoyment in life again. At this point, I have no idea where it's going to go, and I think that's part of what makes it exciting. And hopefully I can inspire some of you guys to also kind of start your own journey, or to start, I don't know, some kind of community. Please let me know in the comments if anything I spoke about resonates with you guys.